Hi, my name's Julie Tybus. Welcome to my channel, The Artful Traveler, where we travel the country to get inspired to create. Now we're in Hot Springs, Arkansas. I want to tell you, it is gorgeous here, and this resort has everything. It's got big sites, full hookup, it's got a pool, kayaks, it even has a zip line that I did not go on. But downtown Hot Springs is pretty cool too. There's some bathhouses and breweries and some really cool murals all over the town. So today we are going to head down to the river and find a cool painting to do. Now that we're all set up, I want to show you I'm going to be using a Prismacolor pencil because it acts as a resist on the paper whenever I draw. So I'm going to do this in fast speed. Here I'm sketching in the picture. You can see it to the upper left corner. Just doing some loose line work in order to recall where the branches are. And this Prismacolor will actually hold in some of the ink as we put down our alcohol ink. The paper we're using is called Yupo. It's an expensive synthetic paper, and at the end of the video I'm going to give you a tip on a different paper to use that's much more cost effective. Here I'm also looking at where I should put that horizon line. I'm debating whether to move it up to create more water area or keep it similar to where it is in the picture, and I do decide to keep it where it is. The next thing we're going to do is use masking fluid in order to mask off the water area. What this does basically is as I paint, after I mask it off, no ink will go into that area. So I'm going to open this and we'll get started. Okay, that literally took me about 10 minutes to get open. Note to self, make sure all my supplies are open before I start filming. But I'm gonna just put this on with the brush. It's a pure liquid. One thing to note is once you're done putting the masking fluid on is to wash that paintbrush out with soapy water right away, or you will have a ruined paintbrush. The masking fluid is going to take about 5 minutes to dry, and in the meantime I cleaned out some reservoirs and picked out some inks I thought would be good for the painting. So the first ink I have here is Sailboat Blue, then a Cloudy Blue, then one of my favorite colors, Teak Wood, Oregano, Lettuce, and Pitch Black. I'm going to begin by painting the blue in between the trees and the foreground, and then I'll work on the darks of the trunk. I'm not worried too much now about the trunks because they're so dark they'll go over this blue, but I am going to lighten the blue by putting a lot of alcohol on it and dripping down to one end because it just got a little dark in there. It also gives some nice moody looks. Now I'm taking a paper towel and kind of wiping that off in order to lighten it to look a little bit more like the painting. Here I'm adding pure alcohol to my brush and just splattering some alcohol in there. You can see it creates some interesting texture. Here I'm going to use the oregano to lay in the foreground and pop in some brighter greens with the lettuce color. There's some grasses in the foreground that I see. I'm going to be putting those in. And then also just lightening up some areas as I see there's some spottiness to the photograph up on the left. Now I'm going to get a darker purpley color using a little bit of the pitch black and the green, and I'm going to put in some of those dark shadows that I'm seeing. One of the things I want to mention is that this is sped up about 400 times, so I am moving much slower in reality and really enjoying the process. Now using the pitch black, I'm creating a nice deep brown for the trunks of the trees, and I am just using a nice fat brush and getting these strokes in, just laying in the base of the tree. I can go in later and put in some detail, but I'm just being free, just moving my brush along those guidelines that we made in the beginning. I see some mosses growing on the far left tree in the picture. You may not be able to see this, but I get some blue and I start to just dab in what I see as the mosses on that tree. It creates a very interesting pattern. With the darker shade, I start to put in some of the skinnier branches with my thin brush. Still following those lines we put in originally in our drawing with the Prismacolor pencil. In the back you'll see I added some red to create a little different shade so not everything is brown. And I'm also going to give this big tree some definition. I'm going to put in some thinner lines. Now it's time to paint the leaves. I've got a red, another bright red, I've got terracotta. I've got this orange, but I'm not sure what it is because the ink has gone over the side of the bottle and I can't read, but it's a bright orange. I'm using bottle and stream, and also a very punchy bright green. I start with a small brush here and just start dotting in some of the leaves, but I quickly switch to a larger brush because I need to put in larger shapes to begin, and I can go back later with a smaller brush and add some specific leaf shapes. I even switched to putting the ink on directly from the bottle to just get some larger shapes. I'm varying the colors here from lettuce and bottle. I'm also adding some alcohol, And isn't the ink just fascinating to watch? It's so fun. Now I'm switching and putting in some of those oranges and reds because it is a fall scene. Now that we have our base in, our leaves, our trunk, and our foreground, we have to take off our masking fluid so we can work in the water. So with a rubber cement pickup, you simply start to push and peel, and it'll just come right off, and you'll see that underneath it is just perfectly white paper. Once this is finished, I use Copic Markers, which is an alcohol ink based marker, and they're wonderful because they don't spread as much and you can kind of lay in. So here I'm laying in some different stripes for the water. Now it's time to be brave and put our orange leaves in that are kind of the center of attention, and I'm just dripping directly from the bottle, putting those large masses of orange in, which we will define a little bit more later. Again, using the Copic marker, I'm using yellow to lighten the one edge of the leaves, trying to get the idea of a little bit of a backlighting to this main tree and focal point. So here's a good tip. If you have an area that gets a little dark, you can use alcohol on a Q-tip and kind of wipe that away, which you can see I'm doing here, and then kind of patching it up with the yellow marker again. Here I'm going to use the darker marker to kind of fix the bottom of that trunk where the masking fluid was, and I want to kind of straighten that out. You can see I just use a black Copic marker to give a nice deep. I'm going to put some of these branches back in, and I'm going to add a lot more branches with this. Now I've decided to take a little artist liberty and add some grasses in the background. They aren't really in the picture, but I thought it would be nice to have those along the edge just to create a little bit of brightness in the back. Redefining some of the grasses in the front with the Copic marker. Here is our finished painting with our reference photo. I do have all the links in the description for the supplies I used, and even this photo you can download. So I hope you try this for yourself. That was really fun painting those trees by the river. So here's my tip for you. If you're learning alcohol inks, the best paper to use and learn on is what I think is Kirkland photo paper. It's a glossy paper. You don't use the glossy side, you use the back side of it. It is very inexpensive when you're learning. It's about 150 sheets for about $30. And I'm not endorsed by Kirkland or Costco or anything, but I do want to say this is just the best tip I got when I was first learning. So next week we are going to work on flowers with alcohol inks, where I was inspired by my recent trip with a bunch of girlfriends to Santa Fe. And I think you are just going to enjoy painting these macro flowers. I went to the George O'Keeffe Museum and was so inspired. So the video is right here, and I hope to see you then.